Week 9 is in the books. Lessons learned. We're going to do something a little bit different going forward. We are going to be going through each game and taking the little bits of information that I think you guys need to know and how it can help you guys moving forward. So, with that being said, let's get right into it and let's go through the Commanders and Seahawks, where we probably had one of the biggest injuries of the year to a top 5 quarterback. Jayden Daniels is gone for the year with a dislocated elbow. Commander season's pretty much lost, but the reason why this one is so significant is because it affects the entire offense, destroys the entire offense. Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, these guys are going to be drastically falling down rankings. I'm losing faith in Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara. He hasn't looked very good over the last couple of weeks. He has looked a lot better in positive game scripts, and in negative game scripts, he just doesn't have the receiving down work. He does not have the receiving skill set in general, and he's just not playing on those downs. So when they're playing from behind, he's a whole lot less valuable, and he's a whole lot less effective. So Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara is going to be significantly falling down rankings as well, but mostly Debo Samuel and Terry McLaurin are going to be greatly affected with Marcus Mariota stepping in as the quarterback. And jumping over to Seattle, I think that there's a lot of good things to be said about Seattle considering how good of a year Sam Darnold's having. He's building off that last year that he had in Minnesota. JSN is possibly the best wide receiver in the NFL, and he continues to dominate targets. He continues to be the wide receiver one in fantasy football. Torrey Horton is a real thing. And I think I want to talk about Torrey Horton just because I think it was significant because Cooper Kupp missed this game. He's had a history of injuries. He played 73% of the snaps this week with Cooper Kupp out. He had not have been above, I believe, 52% for most of the year. The production followed. 4 targets, 4 catches, 48 yards. Saw the end zone twice. He had kind of popped up a couple of times this past season, but I think he can be a real thing. Unfortunately, though, Rashid Shaheed is traded to Seattle. He reunites with his old offensive coordinator last year in New Orleans, and I think that it could pretty much ruin what we thought we had with Torrey Horton for just a second, though. But I still think that Torrey Horton getting deeper leagues can be a nice stash, and I think Shaheed is going to be a nice boom bust flex weekly here. And if you own him, I think you can feel a lot better about him being in Seattle offense than he was in the New Orleans offense. And the last thing I want to talk about is Kenneth Walker. For the first time in a couple of weeks, he played more snaps than Zach Charbonnet, and he had all 3 carries inside the 10, which has not happened in a while. I don't even know if he's had 3 carries inside the 10 all year, but we'll see if things change moving forward. We'll see if his role increases, and if they start going with Kenneth Walker as the year gets, as the games get more important, we'll see if they start going with Kenneth Walker. But that game is finished, and let's move on to the next. Dolphins and Ravens. There's not a lot to talk about here just because of how bad the Dolphins are, how bad they looked, but Lamar's back. Lamar's doing his thing. He's a top 3 quarterback rest of the season. He didn't miss a beat. Derrick Henry is going to be super huge down the stretch, especially as, his yards per carry goes up every single month, and the Ravens are super heavy favorites in the next 6 games. They get the Bengals twice. They get the Jets, they get the Browns, they get the Vikings, they get the Steelers. I mean, this schedule is absolutely food for Derrick Henry coming up, and I think that he can have some like Derrick Henry-esque games from what we've seen him for the past couple of years through his entire career, and I think that he's going to be cooking down the stretch. And as far as the Dolphins go, Achane and Waddle, those are the only guys who want to be starting. Maybe Greg Dulcich, you can look at him as a super deep tight end stash there. He looked somewhat decent, but Tua or Achane and Waddle is the only guys you want to start. You don't want to be starting Tua, so with that being said, let's move on to the Bears and the Bengals, the craziest game of the week. Super insane ending that ended with Colson Loveland having his breakout game. We'll talk about him here in a second. But the first thing I want to dive into is Kyle Monangai because he's a real thing. Almost 200 yards almost 200 total yards up, 29 touches. He was quietly splitting snaps with Swift the previous 2 weeks, even though Swift has looked pretty good. But he showed some real flashes. He showed that he could be the lead back. I know it was against a bad Bengals defense, but we'll see moving forward if he's going to have more of a role. But I wouldn't bet on it too much just because of how good of a year Swift was having and how good he's looked. But you never know with him. Swift has had an injury history, but if he misses any more time, Kyle Monangai is a nice RB2 you can plug in every single week. But Colson Loveland, man, he's here. He finally showed up. I mean, he had been pretty much non-existent. Cole Kmet left this game, but before that, he had been a 64% route participation. He had 30 fantasy points in the day, 2 touchdowns. He had the game-winning touchdown. He looked awesome, and I think moving forward, you can pretty much plug him in at tight end, especially if you're hurting. If you picked him up, good for you. If you stash him for this entire year, good for you. But if he's on waivers, I would spend a good amount of your fab going to get him. I think he could be really, really nice down the stretch as a rookie tight end. These guys, these roles increase throughout the season, and I think Colston Loveland can have a huge role, especially being a top 10 pick. He was a top 10 pick for a reason. He's got all the talent in the world in this Ben Johnson offense, and he clearly wants to get him involved. Now, the biggest goose egg of the week goes to Roma Dunze. I'm not worried about him going forward. Look, some of these guys, they have dud weeks. We've seen it with Drake London over the years. We see it with T. Higgins every once in a while, but he's a young wide receiver. He's going to be fine. He's a focal point in this offense, I believe. He's super talented, so I'm not really worried about Roma Dunze. Flacco is the savior for the Bengals, at least in fantasy, for their fantasy players. He is not the savior for the Bengals in real life because nobody can save the Bengals from that awful defense they have. Chase, Higgins, and Brown combined for 31 of Flacco's 47 pass attempts. He's a super, super highly intriguing streamer as well if you're struggling at quarterback. I really, really think you should pick him up. If he's on waiver somehow, I doubt he is at this point. Everybody probably kind of already knows about him and how high the ceiling is in this offense, but Joe Flacco's a really, really nice streaming option. Now, going over to the Vikings and the Lions. And this is the worst the Lions have looked since week one. And what do you know? The offensive coordinator comes out and he says, I want to get Jameson Williams more involved. I want to get David Montgomery more involved. Well, this game came and they lost. It came when Montgomery out-touched Gibbs, and that's not good. You never want to see that. I believe that Montgomery almost ran as many routes as Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't understand that at all, especially since the pendulum had been swinging towards Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is the better running back. He's a younger, more explosive guy, catches the ball to the backfield. One of the best running backs in the NFL. I do not understand it, but I expect things to be fine moving forward. Sam Laporte is a tight end one. He is a top 5, top 6 tight end in fantasy. And J.J. McCarthy returns for the Vikings. And I think this is significant because I was curious to see how Jefferson and Addison looked. And I think that they're going to be fine moving forward, but I think that T.J. Hawkinson is going to suffer with the rookie quarterback, basically, in J.J. McCarthy because he has not done much all season, and he continues to show really no life at all. Significant, though, for Minnesota. Aaron Jones looked good. He got banged up, of course, once again, because of course he did. If he misses any more time, Jordan Mason will be more than startable. But Jones looked like he was the guy. He looked like the more explosive back. He looked like the better back. We know his pass catching ability kind of lifts his ceiling a little bit more than Mason's. He had 77% of the snaps, 70% of the carries, and ran all the routes out of the backfield before he went down. So I think that is very significant. It looks like he's going to be just fine. Aaron Jones looks like maybe he's a lead back moving forward. We want to probably see another week of it, but that's a big note that I took from this past week. The 49ers and the Giants. What do you know? CMC's a monster. We know he's going to be challenging for the RB1 with Jonathan Taylor most of the year. He's been the only consistent option for the 49ers. Purdy's been hurt. Kittle's been hurt. Pearsall's been hurt. Ayuk's been out. Hopefully Purdy returns this week, but Mac Jones has been more than serviceable. I think there are better days ahead for George Kittle. I still think George Kittle is a top 6, 7 tight end. I think his ceiling is bigger than most, and I think when Purdy comes back, their chemistry is too good not to connect again, and for him not to be a top 5 tight end rest of the season. So I have a lot of confidence if Purdy comes back, but those are the only two 49ers you want to be starting in your lineup. Maybe Juwan Jennings if you're desperate. He's been getting a nice target share lately, but going on to the Giant side of things, I am a little bit sad about this. Other than Jackson Dart, because no scat would be no problem for him. He's a top 12 option every week. The rushing upside. He should be ranked even higher than a top 10 to 12 option just based off of good matchups if he's playing a weak defense. Dart's really good. Just please, Jackson Dart, stop taking a bunch of hits. Please, please, please slide. Learn how to slide maybe a couple of times. I know he loves to run guys over and be tough. We know he's tough, but we don't want him to suffer the same fate as some of the other guys. So please, Jackson Dart, stay healthy. The sad part about this whole thing is Tyron Tracy was not a shoo-in like I thought. He was out-touched, out-snapped by Devin Singletary. 10-8, he was out-touched 10-8 by Devin Singletary. It looks like if the Giants are going to keep this committee approach going forward, neither of them are startable. It's super frustrating because I thought this guy was a shoo-in to be a top 24 option as an RB2. That's my bad. I'm not giving up hope, though. Maybe it's just worst-case scenario. I mean, it's worst case scenario. I'll just come out and say it for the Tyron Tracy thing because I really thought he was a lock to be, an RB2 rest of the season. But maybe things change, maybe they don't. But it's not looking good. So Tyron Tracy, is a guy you cannot put in your lineup right now. It's a guy I will not feel confident putting in my lineup until we see his snap share rise, and we see him out touch Devin Singletary. So moving on to the Colts and Steelers. Probably the most surprising outcome of the week because the Colts have been so good. The Steelers take down the scorching hot Colts. I did not see that coming before the week. But Jonathan Taylor finally looked mortal. They forced Daniel Jones to throw the ball 50 times. They turned the ball over five. He turned the ball over 5 times this game. I mean, I think it was just a bad game. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't think the Colts are going to be looking like this moving forward. They've been humming all year. It was bound to happen eventually, but overall, I'm not worried. I still think Daniel Jones is a quarterback one. I still think that Tyler Warren is a top 3 tight end, despite him underwhelming a little bit, this week and the last couple of weeks. He's going to be fine. Michael Pittman is the guy in this offense. He had over 100 yards again. He's a high-end wide receiver too, like a top 15 option every week. He had 9 catches for 115 yards on 12 targets. Josh Downs had a touchdown. He looked good. I think he's a boom bust flex option and a really solid start and good matchups as a flex. But if your name isn't DK Metcalf or Jalen Warren, I do not care about you on the Steelers. I really don't. The cool thing is, though, Jalen Warren is getting all the work. He is a super solid RB2, 73% of the carry share, 50 weighted opportunities, and 7 of the 8 carries inside the 10. That's what you like to see. Texans and the Broncos. My Texans looked bad again. And things can't get any worse because Stroud lost to a concussion. It looks like he'll probably miss this next week as well. So we're going to get the Davis Mills experience, which is it's never fun. The Texans coaching staff is back at it again. Who knew? Christian Kirk is returning, and they sent Jalen Noel to the Shadow Realm. Despite him being probably the best wide receiver on the field the past 2 games, they decide to. I think he played 11 snaps all game, I believe. No wonder the Texans are 3-5. No wonder they can't get anything going on offense. Woody Marks too was pretty much useless in this game as well. Completely shut down. It was a good Broncos defense. I think he's a boom bust like RB2. I think he's a boom bust RB3 rest of the season. He got 47% of the snaps though. I mean, it's better, or it's about what he's been averaging, I guess. But I just am a little down on him, especially this next week and with Stroud being out. This is a hilariously embarrassing tweet, by the way. The Texans had a 1st and goal from the 1. Chubb carried nothing. 2 British Brooks carries nothing, and then they had a false start and it leads to a field goal. I mean, that is basically Texans football right there. That is textbook Texans football. Just a weekly reminder about how much of a tragedy this Texans team is, just based on how good their defense is and how bad their offense is. I mean, I don't even know what to think of this offense. It's a nightmare. And I think for the Broncos side of things, I think you should feel fine about, Bo Nix going forward. You should feel fine about Cortland Sutton going forward. I understand RJ Harvey found the end zone again. I believe he had 5 for 51. He had another receiving touchdown, but his role has not changed. He's ran hot on touchdowns. He had 6 touches. He played 31% of the snaps, and that's just not something you can trust in your lineup. Until we see more going forward, until we see his snap share raised and his opportunities raised, you cannot put him in your lineup. You love to see him scoring touchdowns, but cannot trust RJ Harvey moving forward at the moment. The highest scoring games of the week was the Jaguars and the Raiders, and Brock Bowers came back with a vengeance. He put up the biggest week from, I believe, a fantasy player of the entire year. He had 43 PPR points as a tight end. I mean, the dude is dominant. With Tucker Kraft gone for the season 2, a healthy Bowers is easily the tight end 1 rest of the season. I don't even think it's a discussion. The injury news to Travis Hunter, on the other hand, got me excited about Brian Thomas Jr. for the first time all season because he did not take advantage of it. Of course he didn't. He had 3 catches for 51 yards on 5 targets. He got banged up again. Just super disappointing, and I'm not excited about him rest of the season either. Jacoby Myers actually just got traded to the Jaguars, which, I mean, I don't think it's going to help him, but it gives the Jaguars another option. And if you have Jacoby Myers, I think you can plug him in your lineup as like a desperation flex option or as like a wide receiver 3. Definitely a better environment than the Las Vegas, than what he was going on with the Raiders over there. We'll see if he plays better, but anyways, let's get away from Jacoby Myers. Let's take in a Travis Etienne. I'm going to take my L again. Travis Etienne, nothing changed this past week. He continues to dominate the backfield. I don't care that Bashal Tutin stole the goal line touchdown. He's done that a couple times this year, and nothing has really changed. But Travis Etienne stayed at his usual 60% snaps. He got 27 touches on the day. He looked good. And it just things won't be changing until, I see anything of significance. I think that Travis Etienne is just going to be the guy for Liam Cohen moving forward in this offense. So Travis Etienne is a running back 2. He's a top 24 option easily the rest of the season. And yeah, I'm taking my L. Moving over to the Panthers and the Packers. The Packers managed to lose this game. Bryce Young looked bad. He threw for like maybe 100 yards. Didn't look any better than Andy Dalton. But Rico Dowdle, the dude was awesome. I mean, Canals told us that he was going to be rocking with Dowdle moving forward, and he was not kidding. Per this tweet by Ryan Heath, he had 83% of the carry share, both carries inside the 5, a 50% target share. I mean, he was getting everything. He looked exactly how he did the 2 weeks that he had the backfield all to himself. He is going to be a top 15 option easily moving forward. He looks really good. You can feel confident in him. And the only other guy I think you can feel confident about, though, in this Panthers offense is Ted McMillan. I still think he's going to be a guy who's going to be big down the stretch because he's the only Panther other than Dowdle you want to even consider starting. This offense is really, really bad. You don't care about Leggett. You don't care about Jadavion Sanders if he's even healthy right now, or Jalen Coker. It doesn't matter. Ted McMillan, Rico Dowdle, only guys you want to be starting moving forward. The other big injury that hit this week on the Packers side, the tight end one is now lost for the season. Tucker Kraft is gone for the year with a torn ACL. This is brutal, not only for fantasy managers, but for the Packers because he was their leading wide receiver. He was an animal. He was absolutely giving you an advantage every single week in fantasy just based on what he was doing. He was killing it. Super unfortunate. And, going over to the Packers receiving side of it, Luke Musgrave is going to be stepping in for Tucker Kraft, and I think he should be a pretty high list of priorities on waivers this week. He was actually drafted in the same draft ahead of Tucker Kraft about a round before him a couple of years ago. They were both taken together. Kraft ended up being the better guy. Musgrave is a nice option if you can, get him off of waivers. I'm spending a good bit of fab on him. I think he can be a good option moving forward. A guy that I don't feel too confident about moving forward is Matthew Golden because he left with an injury, and the likelihood of him being a rookie breakout it's really in jeopardy at this point because he hasn't looked productive too much up until this point, and with him getting injured, I don't feel good about it anymore because Romeo Doubs has been pretty much the wide receiver one in this offense. Over the last 5 weeks, he has averaged 15.8 points per game. He's a nice wide receiver 3 moving forward. Romeo Doubs and Josh Jacobs should be the candidates that benefit the most from this Kraft injury and the guys that I would, be betting on in this offense to take the bulk of the work. So, yeah, with that being said, it sucks to lose Kraft for the year. Super brutal. But moving on to the Chargers and Titans. Nobody is startable for the Titans. Maybe Spears or Pollard, but unless one of them goes down with an injury, none of them got traded today at the deadline. I mean, I don't feel confident in any of them starting them unless it's like a desperation play. They're just a gross team to own shares of. A team that is not gross to own shares of is the Chargers. Herbert is a quarterback one in fantasy. He's a top 12 option every week. He's got a little bit of rushing upside. This team is passing a ton. Rondé Gatson has emerged as a top 6 tight end in fantasy. Super high end tight end, just continues to build on his role every single week. He looks like a stud. He looks like a diamond in the rough that they found in the draft. But something to note, I think, from this week was, first of all, Joe Alt is gone for the season. And that is the second star tackle that the Chargers have lost. They've lost both elite tackles to season-ending injuries. This is going to significantly infect the run game, and I really hope they can protect Herbert because I do not want to see Herbert go down. This will ruin even more options on this offense, but Herbert's been playing so well this year. I just want to see him get protected. But there's something I want to know about Kamani Vidal that I didn't notice that I feel like I should have pointed out and I should have noticed, but there's the great tweet. Kamani Vidal's carry share has dipped again this week. Maybe just a weird week. I don't know. Maybe he keeps his role moving forward, but just something to note. I mean, maybe I anointed him as the RB1 too quick just based on what I saw from a couple big games with Hampton being gone, but we'll see moving forward. It's just something to note that we may not be as confident about Kamani Vidal as we thought we were. So moving on to the Patriots and Falcons. I want to rejoice a little bit. I want to take a little bit of a deep breath because I drafted a lot of Trevion Henderson this year, and we can rejoice at least for 1 week. He looked good. I mean, in Stevenson's absence, if Ramondre Stevenson misses another week, I think he's a top 24 option. He looked pretty solid. Unfortunately, Terrell Jennings got the goal line carry because, I mean, that was super predictable. We knew that, we can't have all nice things, and especially with Trevion Henderson this year, we can't have any nice things for the most part. But he still got 18 touches. He still looked good. I still think he's a top 24 option against Tampa Bay next week if Ramondre Stevenson misses. But we needed this game. We needed to see it from him that he was going to have a big role if Stevenson went down. And if he's hurt moving forward, then I think it's big ups for Trevion Henderson, and it's at least a little bit of a sigh of relief for guys who drafted him like me this year. So moving on to the Atlanta side, unless your name is Bijan or Drake London, you don't want them anywhere near your lineup. I mean, maybe Kyle Pitts is a back end, tight end one. He's been sneaky good this year, but Mooney's a nothing burger. Michael Penix, unless he's throwing a Drake London 30 times a game, he's not going to be very good. And this offense is just not, he's just not good enough to elevate this offense at the moment. And this offense isn't good enough to elevate him. So, yeah, if your name isn't Bijan or Drake London, I don't want you in my lineup as an Atlanta Falcon. So, the Rams and the Saints. Rams dominate the Saints. Not much to talk about here. Puka, Devontae, both wide receiver ones, both top 12 options every single week. Stafford is a quarterback one, depending on the matchup, but at worst, he's a high end quarterback two. He's thrown like 9 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. Just really good. The dude is like, does not care how many injuries he's had. Who cares about his back? I mean, the dude's just a monster. Going to the New Orleans Saints side of the ball, unfortunately, Alvin Kamara has deemed himself unstartable. He's not getting the volume. He's not getting any receiving work. This offense is atrocious. He lost a fumble in this game. His snap rate was around like 58, 60%, which is kind of pretty low for him. I've seen him spike to like 75, 80% throughout the season. The only Saints option you really want to be going with is Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed just got traded. All those, targets from Shaheed are going to be funneled to Chris Olave. All the 12 targets that he was already receiving before, he's going to get all the work in this offense. Tyler Shuck, as bad as he is, I think Chris Olave can survive just based off of volume, but Alvin Kamara looks bad. And yeah, he did not get traded today, so he is not going to be looking even better moving forward. He's going to still be in this bad Saints offense, and I don't think you should be starting him if you have to. If you can avoid it, please don't. The team that I wish he got traded to today, the Chiefs and the Bills. Um, Not really much changes here other than the leader in the MVP race. It should be Josh Allen now. I mean, he dominated Mahomes in the regular season again. We'll see what happens in the playoffs this year, but that's a story for a different day. Dalton Kincaid put up some really strong numbers again, but weirdly enough, he has not played above 35% of the snaps the past 2 weeks. I mean, he did what he did this past week, but like 30% of the snaps. It's super weird usage. I mean, with the way that Joe Brady uses James Cook and Dalton Kincaid and the way he plays Keon Coleman out of position, it's super bizarre. I mean, I guess it's working. Josh Allen just an alien though. He's really good. But I want to shout out first of all. I want to shout out the Fantasy Points Data Suite for all of this, a lot of this data that I'm getting. I mean, it's probably the best tool in the business, and I super recommend it if you are a sicko fantasy player like me. They have everything you could possibly want in there. So I wanted to shout out that out in this video. But a point we just talked about last week, James Cook, not at all involved in the receiving game, just one target. He is good though. The Bills are really good though. The game scripts are going to be pretty favorable. I just don't think his ceiling is going to be super high because if he's not getting any receiving work on this offense, unless he goes for 200 yards like he did last week, then his ceiling is going to be a little bit capped. I don't know why he's not getting receiving work. We'll see if anything changes, but super weird and super odd. And it's another thing that we can talk about next week if they're in a bad game script and he's taken off the field. But this Chiefs offense will be fine despite a down week. Something I want to note though, with Isaiah Pacheco out, Kareem Hunt saw his snap share jump to 80%. He got 11 of the 16 carries. He got the rushing touchdown. He's a really good streaming option, an RB2 until Isaiah Pacheco returns. Not much changes otherwise, like I said. Kareem Hunt's a solid RB2 play. If he's on waivers and you really need it, I would really highly recommend going and get him. But yeah, Kareem Hunt, solid play. If he's on waivers, go get him. Last game of the week. The Cowboys and the Cardinals. So the Cardinals look a lot better without Kyler Murray. And today it was just announced that Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starting quarterback moving forward. I think if you have Marvin Harrison, I think if you have Trey McBride, you have to be loving life right now because Trey McBride can't catch a touchdown with Kyler Murray in this offense. He's got like 4 with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Marvin Harrison looked really good last night. They made him the focal point of this offense, which I don't understand why they drafted him 4th overall and they haven't been doing that. But both of these guys are going to produce better. They are probably going to look better moving forward with Kyler Murray not on the field. We'll see what happens the rest of the way, and if Jacoby Brissett can keep this up. But you have to feel a lot better if you have Marvin Harrison, if you have Trey McBride moving forward. Trey McBride, of course, is a top 2, top 3 tight end at worst. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a fringe top 24 option, a low end wide receiver too. But if things continue like this, then I think that he has the ceiling, he has the talent to become, a high end wide receiver too around the Michael Pittman range. So big ups for the Cardinals receiving options, not big ups for Kyler Murray. And that is all for the week. Thank you guys for listening. Week 9 lessons learned. I will see you guys in week 10.